AI agents will become what we call strategically dangerous, which means running nationwide, highly sophisticated lateral movement attacks within milliseconds and not within hours.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Alex.
And my name is OP.
Welcome to AI on Fire, the podcast where ideas spark, code burns, and the future of AI takes shape through the real stories from the builders behind it.
Every fire has three elements: heat, fuel, and oxygen. Control those and you control the flame. That's how we think about AI too. Not something to contain, but something to shape.
Today, we're talking about something that becomes very real, very fast: identity and security in the era of AI. Agents aren't just answering questions anymore. They can take actions, call APIs, retrieve data, trigger workflows, even provision infrastructure. And every action requires access, which means identity.
And when you have autonomous system acting on your behalf, the blast radius gets bigger. So the question becomes, how do we scale AI safely?
Our guest today is Oded Hareven, CEO and co-founder of Akeyless. And we're going to dig into what its real takes to secure AI agents at scale. Oded, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, OP, and pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
All right. We're starting with a fire drill. So fire drill is a section where we have 10 rapid questions with rapid answers. Don't take too much time to answer them. And if you're ready, we'll set the fire up. Ding, 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 ding.
All right.
Let's go.
Agent introduction, more exciting or more scary?
More exciting.
All right. What becomes the bigger challenge, scale or autonomy?
Autonomy.
If an agent gets compromised, what usually is the first thing it tries to do?
I believe to copy certain packages and to get privileges, higher privileges.
Most dangerous place secrets still show up: source code, CI/CD, or logs.
All of those.
One security practice the team still ignore too often.
Unfortunately, the industry is still very much heavy reliant on static credentials and static permissions and static identities. We've been talking about that for a long time, how to shift to just-in-time, short-lived. AI agents is about to bring that big time.
All right. Should AI agents have their own identity like humans do? Yes or no?
No, oh my God. AI agents should have their own AI identities. They should not leverage human identities at all.
Default mode for agent access, always on or just in time?
Just in time. Although I would surprise you that in my just in time, of course, but in my perspective, the future holds dynamic decision about access. So it will be everything deny rather than the places where they're going to ask for specific access to specific data, but the decision will happen also by another AI.
All right. One thing security teams should measure, but they usually don't.
Wow. How fast do they rotate? Unfortunately, here again, the industry, and I've seen that a lot, people tend to think that they're safe with rotation. Statistics show that majority of secrets today are not being rotated as they should. So how much time does it take you to rotate all of your secrets within your environments?
All right. From a prompt injection perspective, is it inevitable or manageable?
Manageable.
All right. And the last one, what gives you more confidence, least privileges or a full audit trail?
Least privileges.
All right. The fire drill is over. Thank you so much. We're getting to the next section, the spark.
You do know, Alex and OP, that every question that you asked has like 15 minutes of its own debate.
Absolutely, yes.
All right. Because I can easily decide about, the other answer, and I'll have good justification of why did I choose what I choose.
Yeah,
we can have a specific separate discussion, like on each question, like deep dive.
But that's why we decided to start with a fire drill, because we already kind of know your perspectives on some questions, right? And now we can go deeper into what really matters. But
let's go.
Let's start with a spark. And let's start with a big shift, actually. We're moving from user-driven apps to autonomous systems, agents that act and execute. What did it click for you that actually changes the security? How the security is changing in this?
Wow, this is a profound revolution that we're seeing right now with identity and AI agents. Okay, first of all, for many of you that are familiar with enterprise environments, for years and being an identity person and doing that for more than 20 years, there has been the concept of role-based access management that is being provided statically. It means that humans obviously have decided for other humans what should be the specific permissions that a certain human beings would get. With AI agents, and especially autonomous AI agents, the decision about what should be a certain permission for a certain AI agent can no longer be static. This is a major challenge for the identity industry in general and the current tools that are currently available in the industry, given that a previous evolution that should have happened, which is providing just-in-time and least privileges credentials with short-lived tokens, with dynamic identities and secrets that are being created on the fly, with least privileges as much as possible. Giving all of that all together to add this complexity of now deciding dynamically whether a certain AI agent, according to its intent, should get a certain permission, that's the big next thing. That's in terms of, and you asked about, what's news about identity or what news about AI security. And I'm focusing obviously on the identity. The second part is, I'm finding that not a lot of people thinking about the fact that AI agents will soon, it's not really there, but it's getting very close, would soon become what we call strategically dangerous, which means running nationwide, highly sophisticated lateral movement attacks within milliseconds and not within hours. Now, the whole solutions around identity did not take in account for years that have been designed and provided to the market. They were not built for attacks that are happening in milliseconds. And I'll give you an example. The entire notion of discovery, the entire notion of identity governance and administration builds IGA, builds on top of that concept in which permissions are static and that we have time to fetch for anomalies. So we don't have time to fetch for anomalies because everything is happening now in milliseconds. And worse than that, it's a non-deterministic algorithm, so there are no anomalies. So you don't really know what you're expecting. There are so many things that are now breaking within identity, right? Because everything was definitely built for humans. Some tools have done, or some solutions in the market have made their evolution towards machines, and yet machines, in a way, were still static. AI agents changes the whole thing. And I'll just finalize with this. It will eventually, is how I see it and how we are analyzing it, you would see identity going further than just what used to be, which is decision, what to provide you, what kind of permission, who are you, now to do you do actually things that you are permitted, or the things that you have declared according to your intent, that those are the actions that you will do. So we're gonna see a shift from a terminology of proving identity to actually authority and control the runtime of AI agents, which traditionally identity was not there.
So until now, identity was mostly about people, human, etc. Yeah, and today it's moving towards additional workloads, microservices, and mostly agents. And you answer the question: what changed or what is about to change? Can you give us a perspective on why did machine identity suddenly become a main story?
Sure. Pretty simple to begin with. And I'm sure that you guys remember, but I remember like 20 years back managing a very large domain controllers with plenty of clusters within it, hundreds of thousands of objects and millions of objects in it, a whole forest. Majority of users there were actually humans. And suddenly with time, more and more systems, and I remember that part when .NET became like that thing, those times. I know it sounds very old, but when .NET became the thing, then more and more applications that have been developed on .NET have started to leverage the mechanism of group management within Active Directory, as well as leveraging the authentication of Kerberos within Active Directory. So what you started to see is more and more users and groups that basically were dedicated for application users or system accounts, how we call that, right? But those were not the local administrators, rather than an application, .NET application that wishes to get access to the database, to the SQL database, Microsoft SQL. Then you've seen more and more of those users accessing database, and those were application users. So that was the beginning where we started to see more and more of those. Back in the Oracle, places on other databases, you could have seen those accounts within the Oracle. But with time, the complexity and the amount of, the containerization, the break of the monolith, the fact that there's much more components that communicate with each other, the public code repositories, all of that altogether basically brought us into, you can call that some kind of apocalypse with secrets, with credentials, because suddenly those credentials being found much more. System users became much more, machine identities on that end. Now you have much more accounts, and the statistics show that for every employee now, you get around 100 system accounts, which is unbelievable. Cloud containerization, another level of virtualization, which basically containers are. Complexity of automation, DevOps, all of that altogether brought this ratio between number of humans to number of machines with a greater height of magnitude, up to 1 human to 100 machines. So volume takes it all.
And with agents, it will be even more than 100.
Yeah, and that's actually the next question, right? Do you have any estimates on how much identities are now involved in the modern AI systems, and where do they usually come from?
Yeah, so I can leave that to the imagination of our viewers, because to be honest, it's an infinite number. I think we all understand that Earth on that end can contain certain amount of humans because we're physical. When it gets to digital, there is an unlimited number of AI agents that can run, assuming that all they need is very limited physical space for compute, right? So the number is basically unlimited, and it is highly dependent of how they are being implemented. Given that, you'll have AI agent that multiplies itself per every call within a call center, right? And this AI agent, part of it is pretty much ephemeral. Then it should have also ephemeral access to the CRM systems, to the billing systems, to everything that needs to be defined. And then after that call, that particular agent is done. Which, by the way, brings me to another issue, if you'd like to talk about it, which no one speaks about. It's the aggregation over time of data by AI agents. I think of it that people are talking, let's monitor their behavior. And we're all used to the fact that they will query databases and query all kind of resources and MCPs, etc. But with time, when you think of it, when you're providing a human a permission to view a certain report, you don't really think about the fact that they can save that report long time, and they can, with time, to absorb all of that data. Because we think at the terminology of human beings, right? When a machine gets access, it can very quickly get more and more of your database, and quite, before you know it, majority of your database legitimately was actually exported outside. So there will be all kind of islands of information of data in which, with humans, we thought that they would never query. Agents are able to absorb, to hold, and to store, and to also to communicate with each other. Go more with your imagination, all kind of policies that prevented extracting information outside of a certain network. They will find a way to bypass that by segmenting that data to small kilobytes, and you found here a whole different section of attacks.
May I ask you a follow-up question on the numbers of agents, right? You said that agents can be multiplied, but do you think we can give them permissions to manage their identities, or should we have like a master agent who is responsible for identity management as well?
I think that for a start, we're going to see a lot of concerns about, providing AI, the ability to govern AI. As human beings, we tend to think in our own templates and to continue use the same patterns. I'm still shocked that in the last month or so, I heard that people telling me, "Oh, AI is just a trend." And I'm like, oh my God. But I can understand why.
Trend, right?
Yeah, it's I don't know. There's not even a terminology for it, because the amount of things that would change within our lives, we can argue about when, right? And I'm not even necessarily talking about robots and stuff, which is fine. It's great. It's awesome. But I do talk about the software and the complexity of assignments and missions and actions that they would be able to do. But go back to your question. So at the beginning, we will continue to think like humans by saying, let's provide certain permissions to certain AI agents that would be able to prove their identity. Very soon after, we would try all kinds. The industry will try, and I'm starting to see that already. Obviously, things that we're analyzing also on ourselves. We're going to see things around understanding the intent of the AI, of a certain agent. What's the intent? What's the prompt? Then running another AI to understand what exactly, should be okay to run on a certain session or not, and then to monitor that. Some solutions hopefully would go even further into real-time sessions, like we're going, obviously. So to better monitor what are things that are happening there, to make sure that, because an AI agent can tell you, I'm just after data for Q3 within your HubSpot. But then after you provided a certain permission to go to your HubSpot, then they would do whatever they want. Although the permission was very with least privileges approach, they can do all kind of other things that you would not even imagine. So we're going to see some AI to help us further to govern the intent and what's really happening. But eventually, the whole process of providing the permission itself to act, I see no other option than eventually to scale it with other AI to completely govern AI. Otherwise, we would block those. We have the tendency to want to become more and more efficient, up to the days in which they will also design their own control systems. That will happen as well, but it's too far.
Yeah. So that said, moving forward to reality check and dig into like few details over here. Where do you see secrets leaking mostly, most often today? Not in theory, but like in real environment.
By far, the public code repositories provide millions, literally millions a year of API keys that are being discovered. Mostly are static, mostly are not the ones that are being rotated. So public code repositories are the easiest to find, as I'm seeing today. If you go further than this, then configuration files for years have been included with passwords for very high-end privileged users. That's for sure. So we covered code, then we covered configuration files, and then eventually you'll find them within all kinds of repositories that are badly managed. Some open source solutions that easily can be exploited, that are not well encrypted, and things as such. By the way, Cloud Vaults, for instance, I meet with a lot of teams that are telling me that sometimes they're fine with Cloud Vaults. Bear in mind, all of you, that no one is responsible on rotating those secrets that sits within Cloud Vaults, right? Obviously, this is a part of the things that Akeyless is solving, but it's okay to continue and use the Cloud Vaults, but it's there for 6, 7, 8 years, and yet they have developed their truly enterprise worth rotation mechanism. The reason, by the way, is that eventually you are keeping their static string, and it is not necessarily connected to your non-managed technology that you brought. So eventually you find yourself rotating in both of those. Anyway, for the ones that are interested, that would be able to look for it within Akeyless. But those are the things, the obstacles that must be addressed.
All right, that's interesting. And you mentioned several mistakes that teams usually doing with their secrets, right? Like publishing to GitHub or something. And for me, it's more like just being dumb, right? So you should not be doing this, right? You're irresponsible. But can you probably talk about the biggest design mistakes that teams usually make while deploying AI agents?
Yeah. So I would not call that dumb, because I understand that development teams want to move very fast, and DevOps guys want to move very fast. I definitely understand that. Being both parallel identity person as well as infrastructure person, I totally understand why this is happening. Fortunately, today there are solutions for that. There are very easy solutions for you talked about designs, then designer system to leverage the authentication of JWT certificates, OAuth tokens, and things as such, much cleaner. You can rely on identity providers such as Akeyless and others in order to get those to be signed, tokens to be provided, and so on. What I'm still seeing, and particularly I've started to hear recently, by the way, more and more bad practice around providing the AI agent your own credentials. Take OpenClaw for instance. I've seen a lot of blog posts that are basically saying I just provided my own permission for Google, my own permission for the calendar and whatever. That's a huge mistake. The basic best practice should be to open up its own account and to provide the permissions from that account on your account so that eventually you would have permission. Think about what's happening when you're providing OpenClaw your own credentials. OpenClaw can decide in a very happy, April 1st funny game just because it finds it's hilarious to lock you out of your Google account, and then you don't even know the password because you find yourself speaking with it. And it thinks that it's funny because recently it just coded its own skill of humor, right? So very funny things can happen. Those are bad practice that I see and hear, providing either very high privileged users, not leveraging just-in-time principles, and continue to think static like humans.
Yeah, we don't know what we don't know. That's why it's very useful. Thank you for sharing all those advices and recommendation. On that note, if a team is building something like we're talking about agents that touch production system, for example, and what's the first thing you tell them to fix, for example, or checking, like making sure it's correct?
So my belief, obviously, is the one that also architects and participate, in ideation processes with regards to what will be the future. Developers and AI agents should be very free to do what they want. And I'll explain exactly what is it that I say. I think that we cannot expect them to do what we want, and we should assume that bad things are about to happen. My perception on that is that you should assume already that the AI agents that are working within your environment have some sort of malicious code, because you cannot assume otherwise.
Yeah.
I don't think that, well, as humans, we don't have the tools to make sure that nothing bad would happen. And soon it will get even more complicated by having AI agents to write other AI agents and so on, right? So the assumption as a ground base should be my AI agent is potentially rogue on a Sunday morning. Okay. Now, that means, number one, never give it any kind of credentials in production environments. And there are ways today to provide it with temporary credentials. Okay. Now, I would even say more than this, that you don't have to give it to the AI agent itself rather than inject it within the session so it would not have it. That's number one. That's a best practice that I would definitely go for it, which is leveraging a just-in-time, not to provide the secrets themselves. Number two, don't ever assume that the actions that your AI agent would do are fine. And let's take a consumer world example. You just gave your OpenClaw permission to work out your calendar. Fine. Who says that it's not going to delete many of your existing calendar invites and your meetings that you had? Okay. You do provide it with a permission to delete stuff. Who said it does not delete things that in history, right? So today there is no granularity in that part, because the RBAC, remember we spoke about the role-based access management that Google account is providing you, is very simple, very simplistic. It's edit, view, control, whatever, right? Very simplistic. There is no very granular access management or access control system. So what should happen actually is to intercept that communication and to monitor that within a reverse proxy. Very few have started to do that. And obviously you can imagine where our minds are, but you must find a way to control the actions and to make sure that eventually it does not do all kind of actions like deleting history. That should be a complete deny on every action that would happen, right? So this is just a very small example to make you think, very simple example in the consumer world, and now multiply it on the enterprise world.
That's actually an interesting point you touched, right? developers are putting their credentials into copilots, like agents and whatsoever. So do you have any recommendations on how to protect it? I heard reverse proxy, but is there any ways to protect? So for example, I use MCP to interact with Confluence, right? And I use environmental variable where I put my API key. And obviously Copilot has an access to it and it does everything on behalf of me. So what are the best practices around
So the first act would be, as for what's currently existing in the market, there are two approaches that are currently available. One is for the AI agent, tell it to use an SDK in order to get the temporary actions. Okay, so you can leverage tools obviously like Akeyless and similar to basically use an SDK to fetch the temporary credentials, and by that to reduce the chances that the AI agent will do something permanent, right? You basically say you're going to get an access for 2 seconds for a certain every time that you ask. Every time that they ask, you're getting 2 seconds to do whatever they need to do on a specific permission, and that would reduce the risk on that end. The second option is to leverage something that is a bit more sophisticated in the current industry, which is I'll call that runtime control, but let's call it Gen 1, which is the ability to connect your, you just mentioned MCP, but so that the MCP would not just provide the credential, the temporary identity, rather than also check with the intent itself whether a certain permission is actually needed to be provided or much lower, a much smaller set of permissions like least privilege, right? So that would definitely be helpful. The third generation of that we're going to see very quickly, I believe. It will be, again, more inspection into the actual controls that are happening. So you'll be able to intercept a certain command and to drop it. This one is not very widely provided today yet.
So to wrap up our like security section and specifically Akeyless approach. So let's connect this. What is the core idea behind your specific approach from Akeyless for AI era? Maybe you can like touch
So
on that one as well.
Yeah, first of all, for the ones that do not know Akeyless today, we're responsible today for serving more than 200 billion machine identity interactions on an annual basis, meaning that two machines that wish to communicate, they would require either a static credentials or a credentials that are rotated, or in the more sophisticated environments, just-in-time secrets or just-in-time identities and tokens. So Akeyless is responsible today within Fortune 10 and S&P 500, S&P 2000 customers that we have all around the globe, and within retailer business, within financial industry, within high-tech software, pharmaceuticals, and many others. So today we are already in the business of serving machines in a high scale with a hybrid SaaS approach. We have a very lightweight gateway that you have within your environment that provides you also caching and responsible on serving all of those secrets in real time. We are very much in line into the production already with several of our customers were literally declared as tier 0 responsible on money that the revenue that the organization is actually having, which is a lot of, as you can imagine, a lot of responsibility and a lot of sleepless nights. But this is what we chose. We chose to protect identities in runtime itself. So that's the core of it. Within our solution, you'll find the ability to manage just an API key or more sophisticated SSH key, or to issue SSH certificate, TLS certificates, to issue identities that are just in time provided. So temporary identity to be created on a database to provide it back to, let's say, a Kubernetes container. After it spins down, then we release that identity and we completely provide the solution for zero standing privileges on the ideal part. And we do that for many different types, to include also encryption keys. We manage them on multi-cloud. We manage them within Akeyless. We serve them within Akeyless, but we also have the ability to orchestrate different vaults on any type of environment. So if you have a lot of AWS accounts or Azure accounts, we're able to do that. And we've extended the platform to become more and more as what the world calling today identity security. As much as we're injecting credentials and identities into sessions for Kubernetes and CI/CD processes, etc., we're also being able to do that for human interactions. And by that, we have our own privileged access management solution, which is modern PAM built for cloud environments and newer environments, PKI solution, and so on and so forth. So this is what we serve today. Among that, we see our customers already connecting our SDKs and our ability to provide just-in-time identities to AI agents, which is marvelous. It's wonderful. And what's next to be provided is what we call more of the runtime security. Again, as I've mentioned here, that would make us to become even more in line with AI agents, to leverage our capabilities already to inspect sessions, to record sessions, and we're gonna provide that also together with AI agents. So this is how Akeyless today contributes, and also in the future. We see ourselves definitely intrinsic and very much in the core answer of AI identity security.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, thank you for covering that one. So I believe we are moving forward to forecast section. This is our last section.
All right.
So 1 year from now, what do you think most companies will still be doing wrong with AI agents?
Wrong.
Yes.
Unfortunately, my forecast is it will be very difficult for IT teams and especially security teams to keep up with the business needs of organizations. You're going to see banks that would like to provide, AI agents to help users and to decide, on decisions provided, on some of them already, by the way, very similar to AI agents, but having all kind of decisions. Banks and retail are going to see it cross industries. And I think that it will be difficult for security teams to keep up with the pace of the adoption of this particular technology. And yeah, I think it will still be wrong next year, unfortunately.
And speaking about the adoption, what do you think becomes the default security pattern for agents?
Default?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for the future, probably 1 year from now.
Yeah. So there is an opportunity to understand walk with me on this. Okay. Identity will move forward, as I've mentioned earlier, from providing you the permission, like authenticating you and providing you the permission to do something, and then to audit trail what you've done. Okay. It will move from that deeper into the sessions and the actions that are being made, just because you cannot rely on the fact that you would After Effects change something, right? You need to be, because things will happen so fast with the agents, the identity would have to control and to be more aware, decision-wise, about what's happening within the session with regards to the access of the data, okay? Because again, anomaly detection concept will fall, dynamic creation and providing of permissions would happen. This is one thing. Now, when you think of it at scale, this would be a requirement of layer 7 understanding of, of authentication and access and then behavior. When you think of it, this will be the beginning of the fusion between identity security and network security. Because eventually the scale and how fast bytes are moving from one place to another, think of it, identity today is running at the beginning of a session, decision what you need to do, providing you a token. And in many cases, if this is a static infrastructure, no further process would happen for years, okay? If it's a static server. If it's container, maybe at the beginning where the container spins up, at the very good part, right? Let's say an ideal solution of today, the container spins up, gets all its permission, and then acts for, let's say, 30 minutes. Okay, that's the most sophisticated thing that are currently happening. With AI agents, you're going to see that happens on a transaction basis, because you cannot be in a position in which you provided for an AI agent a permission to do something for, let's say, 30 minutes, and you're not revalidating that again and again and again, because every transaction does all kind of other things and other intent. So the burden on the velocity, the scale, the volume that the identity concepts would need to now provide and deliver would be much higher. And that would create a new, I'll call that higher sophistication and mechanisms where it fusions identity into the network, okay? In which we haven't seen until today, in which, by the way, it's very much in convergence with how also companies are thinking today, right? You're seeing more and more network companies that are thinking of identity, obviously following after Palo and CyberArk. But to be honest, I'm not sure that even Palo, when they've made that, thought that far, because it will get there.
All right, that's some awesome insights on this, but it's time to set the fire down. Oded, it was a pleasure having you here. Any final thoughts that you want to share with the audience?
Well, stay safe with your OpenClaw, and don't let it go out of your Mac Mini. And that's it. And let's enjoy it. I think, more than everything, open your eyes, try to enjoy what's happening, and to think more of out of the accepting it, right? Obviously, this is I'm preaching to the choir, because most of the viewers, I guess, if not all of them, are very much heavily within AI and interested in this, right? But please encourage also your friends to look at this and to look how can they be more contributors to what's happening and less with fear, because eventually, and if I may, eventually, as much as it will grow and be crucial part within our lives, I know there is that part that it will take everyone's jobs, and what are we going to do? Let's count on people, because eventually, for many years, for thousands of years, we have solved complex things and we took care of the human beings themselves. It's not that we're evacuating Earth and giving AI agents whatever, right? They're going to get all the compute power. They're going to build themselves, because eventually, one arm would build other arms, etc. Fine. All of that science fiction is fine. It's happening, and some of it can create fear. But when you think of it, us as human beings, we will continue to connect. We will continue to create, to help each other. We would continue to eventually find solutions that would be sustainable. How can we support our children? How can we support our relatives? And how can we have this technology next to us? So invite me next time. We can talk about universal income and what's going to happen within the future, and why I believe potentially that we're going to see coming back to more of the village ways of what the world have lived 100 years ago, but with much greater technology.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let AI to make your life easier, right?
yeah,
Yes, in a way.
yeah. Now it's like clear to me why Elon Musk start building, bases on the moon for people, because we are leaving Earth for agents.
Well, so I'm not
We'll
sure
all
if
send
we're
agents
living,
there to the moon.
but I
Or
had
vice versa,
a very interesting discussion. Questions were around, okay, so let's assume that they're going to do all that work, and we're going to find ourselves, just living the day, and doing all kind of a basic other stuff, but basically working with robots and basically enjoying our days and music and doing whatever. That's nice. Might happen within 30 years, 20 years, maybe 15 years. But eventually the next generation would ask themselves, okay, so what's next? And the
What's the
technology
purpose,
that
right?
and the technology that AI agents would provide us with, that would be the ones that would actually bring us this warp engine that all of us have learned about and have seen all of those Star Trek movies around. So eventually we will have the technology to also warp ourselves to many different other worlds, and that would be the next meaning of us.
Yeah, amazing.
Small non-functional advice: go and buy some stocks from alcohol companies, right? Liquor companies, because when people get bored, they'll start drinking, so the prices will go up. 10,
Yeah,
15 years from now, long-term investment.
but if you want to keep that, then a RoboCop also would stop you at the street when you're over drunk. So I'm not sure that's the
Tesla will
right
be doing
philosophy.
self-driving for me, so it's fine.
All
All
right,
right,
thank you so
guys.
much. That's it for this week in Fire, and huge thank to Oded
Yeah,
from
thank you for
Akeyless.
having me. Yeah,
All
thank
right,
you.
and remember, hype spreads fast, but only the real fire keeps burning. See you next time.